Hot privilege. It's hard to go to sleep when you're sweating. So that's what we do. Well, guys, I hope y'all had a fantabulous week. We had a very busy week. How many of you guys are helping with VBS? Yes. A lot of you guys. What about, let's see, Pathfinders? Hey. Yeah, a lot of you guys. Anybody doing anything else this week? Working? Living the dream? Anybody? Yeah, the dream. Well, guys, I hope y'all had a fantastic week. I'm glad that you're here. There are a few things that I want you to know about that are coming up over the next couple of weeks. So, if you would give me your attention so we can know about this together. So, this Sunday, actually, so we're excited about this. Our high school seniors, formerly known as the class of 2018, are now moving up to the college ministry. So, we're excited. We're pumped. Fantastic crew this year. So, if you see somebody you don't know, that may be them. So, welcome them. They are now part of this ministry. It is y'all's ministry now. And we are excited. We're pumped. So, that is actually happening formally this Sunday. So, life group at 9:30. We're back on normal schedule. So, we're in room 114. If you're college age, you're more than welcome to come and join us for that. 114 at 9:30. So, that's this Sunday. Okay, just so you know. And so speaking of Sundays, every Sunday night at 7 o'clock p.m., we have our community group, which is a co-ed group. Chris and Jilly Walker lead that group. If you have never met them, they are absolutely incredible people. They pour their hearts out to you guys in that period. So Sunday night, 7 o'clock, please join that. Really the desire of that group is to, number one, provide you an outlet to really take what we talk about in here and see the plot together. But also learn a little bit more about each other. So that's an awesome opportunity for that. Every Sunday night at 7 o'clock, there's free dinner, and it's normally really incredible. So, I don't know, they may charge you this week by the giggles in the back. We'll see. Okay, y'all got to put that down right there, okay? But yeah, so that's this Sunday, every Sunday. All right, and then one more. So June 24th, which is in a couple weeks, Sunday after church, we're going to do a picnic down at the South Campus. It's going to be pretty awesome. We call it the Grill and Chill. So we're going to be grilling and having a good time there. You like that? Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Grill and Chill. So that'll be right after worship. So after 11:11 gets out, we will go straight to South Campus for some grub and some fun. So that is about in 2 weeks. So that's Sunday. Any questions about the whole Grill and Chill? All right. And if you're wanting to serve this summer, you can serve at Camp Gatlinburg. That is the youth trip to, I guess it's just in Gatlinburg, right? I know there's a lot of activities and a lot of plans there, but if you want to leave for that, you can call the offices and in the city ministry office, and they'll give some relief applications there. But I know there's some need there. That is June the 23rd, correct?
Yep.
July 23rd. Sorry, July 23rd. This summer's flying by. Would you not surprised me it was July already? It feels like July here. But yeah, so that's that week. And then also at the end of this month in June, there's an Appalachian mission trip. So if you're interested in going on that trip, it is just for a few days. It's a really short one, but it is it's a very big need. They need some of our strong backs to go and help them deliver canned goods and food and clothing and all sorts of things to some people. So if that interests you and you want to serve in that way, please let me know. You can text me or email me or catch me before we leave tonight because we need to be finalizing that for sure. Great opportunity to be able to do that June 27th through 29th. I'm glad you guys are here tonight. It's a lot closer. Nobody feels like they're being infringed on personal space. So, I heard a story. It's a story about Sherlock Holmes and Watson, and they went on a camping trip together. And middle of the night, Holmes woke up, said something was wrong, so he woke up Watson, and he said, "Watson, look up, what do you see?" And Watson said, "Stars." And he said, "What does that tell you?" He goes, "Well, there's a lot of them, so it's clear, so meteorologically speaking, it's probably going to be a good day tomorrow. And astrologically speaking, I can tell what certain constellations there are up there. And so geographically, that tells me that we're in the northern hemisphere. And also based upon the rotation, I can tell it's about 3 a.m. in the morning most likely." He said, "From the number of stars there are, you see
and there are probably millions of them, and thousands and maybe millions of planets. So from a theological perspective, they tell me that there's probably a God who created all this. And he says, I guess that's about it. And Holmes said, no, Watson, you idiot, somebody stole our tent. This, and I thought about that, and I heard that story, I thought that illustrates perfectly what's going on so much today. Because people are looking for the sophisticated answer further. And Jesus is just too old-fashioned and something they've heard before. They're looking for something that's more exciting and more, out there than that. And so they have a question which is perfect for the book of Hebrews. Because the book of Hebrews, to me, the entire book answers the question, why Jesus? And that's a question so many people ask today. Why Jesus? Why should I choose Jesus over all these other life systems and life things that I could be doing instead? Not even just necessarily religions, but even the absence of religion. Why Jesus over all that? Well, the question back when Hebrews was written was the same then as it is now. And the question that's written here, is we're going to be looking at tonight, is kind of speaking to the Jews and saying, why Jesus over Judaism, what they had all along? So often when we get asked that question or a variation of it by anybody, we freeze, don't we? If you get tunnel vision, you ever had that where just all of a sudden everything goes, and you're not aware of anything else going on, all of a sudden, it happens like when, if you've ever experienced this, you're in a group, maybe even for the first time, and somebody throws a big ball at you. It's got and you think to yourself, the first thought is, oh man, I don't want to be the first one to go. And happen like that, so you forget how to catch, you get all nervous, your hands immediately start to sweat, so people get the ball at you, why is the ball wet? Or, worse yet, you're over here, and you think, oh, that cute girl's ready to cross the way, we've got to throw it at her. You get these red little pummels go up to you, just kind of launch it at her, and she gets the Marsha Brady effect into the nose, which I don't know if anybody knew who Marsha Brady was. Okay, this is Marsha Brady. Hey, you guys. So that's the Marsha Brady effect, okay? So now you know.
Good job, guys.
You're awesome, guys. I gave that like 5 minutes before we started, so we're able to do that. Right? So you get the tunnel effect, that, where it's the sports. If you ever played sports, the first time you're out there, and then, for me, it's every single time I play basketball. I am horrible at basketball. And when I would get it in middle school, I remember I'd get the ball, and all the guys who knew how bad I was would go, shoot, 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 and I'd be on the opposite side of the court going, launching it, because that's what you do. You don't know what to do. Well, so somebody comes up to you and they say to you, hey, you're a Christian, why Jesus? Or any variation of that. And you just kind of, I went to Sunday school. And you say something, and later on you're going, why? Oh, and you get what I call delayed intelligence. Where after the fact you're going, yeah, that's what I should have said. Because the prophets and all the people have spoken of him, and greatly he fulfilled all the prophecies of the Old Testament. Something wonderful like that. You think, oh, that would have been perfect, that's what I should have said. But at the time you just go, Jesus loves you, this I know. That's all that comes to your mind, right? So how do you get to where you're not just doing that, and to where instead you're able to speak coherently on the subject? How do you do that? Practice. Practice. Like anything, right? Okay, I was a fighter for a lot of years. I taught fighting. And it's interesting, because you get in a situation, I remember the first one time, we were playing football, it's a Sunday pickup game. And I'm out there, and this one guy on the other team, about my size, and he was picking on this little guy on our side. And every time, after the play, he'd hit him and knock him over. And I said, do you know that guy? No, I've never seen him before in my life. And he'd kick him while he was down. The guy was just a mean guy. And so, okay, this is before I was fully walking, I should be, okay, this house normal. And so I said, I'll cover. And so the guy swapped me. So as the guy went off the line, I didn't even think about covering. I just kicked his feet out. He just, face planted on the ground because he was just being a mean guy. And he got up, and he, took a swing at me, and it was wild because I never even thought about that. I passed it through, and I dropped in, and I was like, okay, next time you keep on his arm back, as soon as it gets forward, get in here, smooth, and it just all in just in a split second. You ever watch it? Well, how did I know to do that? How did it all come to my life? Because for thousands of times we practiced that throw that I never really liked. But that's the one that came to my mind. Okay, right? It's wonderful. That's not any more than just that. I'm not related to people. Practice. You practice it. You know in advance. You think in advance of what you're going to say. That way you don't have to delay the intelligence. So when somebody says to you, why would a loving God have allowed this to happen? Why would a loving God do this or that? Well, one of the things you can't get drawn into is to play on another person's playing field. Does that make sense? So often nowadays, we're questioning things that make perfect sense to us until somebody questions it. For instance, male and female, God has made them. Have you ever heard that before? So how many, for most of your life, sexes have there been? 2. I checked today. You know how many there are now? 7. 42 if you check Facebook. Okay? Now, if you know what this strikes me, that somebody at one point came up and said, in theory, I think there should be more than just 2 sexes. I don't feel right about this. I think there needs to be, there's an X, there's a Y, there needs to be a Z. Okay? Now, this is something that if you have to go and say, what do you know from birth? Boy, girl. That's it. Past that, I lost it. I didn't do anything else. I knew boy, girl. That was it. Okay? And now, all of a sudden, you got somebody who's questioning that. And because nobody wants to offend anybody, and it seems so that then everybody's going, yeah, okay, sure. There's 3. There's 7. Yeah. And so everybody buys into it. Because they're just following along on that person's playing field. And so many people now are, it's insane. If you sat and thought about it for a second, you have to talk to. Right? Make sense? So when somebody says to you, why would a loving God allow that to happen? Or why Jesus, instead of defending immediately what you believe, wouldn't that be a question that every religion would have to answer? Every belief system would have to answer? And so it's not like a case of answering from a Christian perspective, why? Why would a loving God let it happen? But, okay, what would Islam have as an answer to that? What would Krishna have? What would Hinduism? What would Buddhism? What would Taoism? What would Judaism? What would all these other religions, what would they have for an answer? You know what I've done every time I've done that? Realize Christianity has the most coherent, the only answer a lot of times. There's 4 different questions, 4 main questions people ask. It's origin. Where did I come from? People want to know that, don't they? Where did I come from? Christianity's and Judaism are the only ones that really answer the question of origin. And another question is meaning. You want to know, why am I here? What is my purpose? Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, I've never heard it before. Your purpose, which is the same as every other person's purpose on this planet, is to do what? To glorify God. Every single one of us has that as our purpose. How you do it is different. You've been differently gifted, but we're all here to glorify God. We have a purpose, a God-given purpose, to glorify Him with what He has given us. Not all belief systems can answer that. Morality is the third area. What do you base morality on? If you do not have an absolute set of beliefs, what can you base morality on? What feels right at the time? Well, what if my morality says something completely different than yours? What if my morality says for my life to be right and for everything to be good, I have to kill you? Are you going to agree with my morality? No. Morality. Christianity gives the best. And I can give you evidence after evidence after evidence. The best explanation of morality. And fourthly, the fourth thing, where am I going? What's my destination? Is that something people want to know? What happens when I die? Very few of the belief systems can answer that. Christianity is the most common. So when people ask you, why Jesus? Don't all of a sudden go, ugh, or any version of that. Why did God let my mother die? Why did this happen to me instead of to somebody else? Whatever it might be. Don't get sucked into the blame for at least. Instead, look at it as a coherent answer. So, chapter 3 of Hebrews. Chapter 3 and part of chapter 4 are a warning to us. The author answers the question here, why Christianity versus Judaism? Why Jesus versus Judaism? And then he goes on to say, when you've got an answer to that question, don't ignore it. Don't dismiss it. That's what so many people do. They hear an answer and they think, well, that's not what I want, so we keep on looking. So that's the warning he's given here in chapter 3 and first chapter 4. So I'm going to start reading verse 1 of chapter 3 of the book of Hebrews. It says, therefore, holy brothers, I'm reading from the ESV by the way. Therefore, holy brothers, you who share in the heavenly calling, consider Jesus the apostle and high priest of our confession. I'm going to stop right there. Whatever you come across in the Bible, the word therefore, what do you ask? Therefore. What is therefore? So it is therefore because of what was said in chapter 2. And this is really cool, because what was the last part of chapter 2? It talks about since Jesus came as a man. Why did Jesus come as a man? I'm glad you asked. So if you would, please read for me chapter 2, verses 16 to 18.
Got it. For surely it is not angels that he helps, but he helps the offspring of Abraham. Therefore he had to be made like his brothers in every respect, so that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God, to make propitiation for the sins of the people. For because he himself has suffered when tempted, he is able to help those who are being tempted.
So why did Jesus have to come? Why did he have to become a man? For us. It's not for the angels, it's for us. That's why Jesus came as a man, because he was like us. And there's keywords in there to start. He is our high priest. Now, in the Judaic system, which all the Hebrews that he's writing to were familiar, you had the law, you heard from Moses, right? And the prophets, and then you had the high priests. And those were your sources of authority. And so he's laying the foundation here. He's saying, okay, so Jesus is our high priest. Awesome. Second word he said, Brock's version said propitiation. That's a good word. You don't get to use it often, do you? Tomorrow, you're going to try to use the word propitiation in a conversation with somebody outside of this room. Propitiation, you know what it means? It's shield. Big shield. Covering, atonement, protection. Jesus is our propitiation. He covers everything for us. He protects us from everything. Another version says atonement. He is our atonement for sin. That's huge. We're going to get to that in a few minutes too. And the third word that really strikes me there is help. He is here to, he came as a man and was tempted in every way in which we are tempted, so that he can help us. That's huge. That's really big. Therefore, tell me what it's therefore. Holy brothers. I love that. Holy means set apart for a purpose. We are holy and set apart, and we're brothers, so we are set apart together. That's important. That's an important concept here in chapter 3. You share in a heavenly calling. The word share there is a privilege. It's that we get to share. It's not something we earn. It's not something that we should take lightly. But together, as brothers and sisters, we get to share in His calling. What is the calling? Well, let me ask you something. How many of you follow Jesus because one day you just woke up and said, this seems extremely logical. Nobody's ever told me about Jesus. But from what I've read and studied, and just from looking at the heavens, I now know I should follow Him. How many? How many of you had at least one person tell you that? That's kind of cool. So how would you think somebody else, just in theory, might learn about Jesus? Who said that? That's a great idea. Somebody else told them. So who's supposed to do that? We all share that responsibility. We all have the privilege. This is Jesus' plan. This is God's plan. To glorify God through us bringing other people to Him. Now, I'm going to tell you a secret about myself. I have flaws. I know. 2 of them. I'm not going to tell you what they are. One of them is not humility, I'll tell you that. God's plan is for us, flawed individuals, to draw other flawed individuals to Him. Jesus, when He came to earth, Son of God, who were the first people that heard about Him? Who were the first people the angels told? Shepherds. Do you know what shepherds were back in the old times and back then? Used car salesmen or worse, congressmen. They were, no, that's not fair. That's not fair shit. They were people that nobody wanted to be having to do with. They were out there in the fields all day. They smelled like sheep. They only came in every so often in town. They kind of kept themselves. They were unsociable. Sometimes things would disappear when they were around. Everybody thought they were they were the lowest among the lowest. Maybe not the lowest, but the lowest in society. And that's who was told first. And where was Jesus born? In a stable, not in a palace. Why tell the lowliest? Why have it be in a lowly place? Why have him be born to a 12 or 13-year-old girl who's married to a carpenter? Why not somebody who did something really cool? Like, okay, I don't know what's cool about that. Slice of bread. A baker. Why all that? Because Jesus came for everybody. He offered him. So, this is God's plan. And we share in heavenly calling. And we get to consider Jesus the apostle, prophet, messenger, Moses, wrote the law. So one authority and high priest of our confession. Verse 2. Who was faithful to him who appointed him, just as Moses also was faithful in all God's house. By the way, anybody got a different term in verse 1 besides consider Jesus?
Fix your thoughts on Jesus.
Yeah. Fix your eyes upon or fix your thoughts upon Jesus. I love that. Why would it say that, do you think? How many of you have ever mowed the lawn? Anybody? Or tilled something? Not killed, I'm not having a problem with my case. Tilled. Tilled the soil, right? Okay. You're mowing. You keep looking back to make sure your lines are straight, right? What happens?
They're not straight right now.
Exactly. You're riding a horse. We're not mowing at this point. So you're riding a horse, okay? And you're scared because you're kind of close to the edge, and so you keep looking over, right? What's going to happen? Why?
Because you're in that direction.
Where you look, the horse goes, because you pull a little bit, and you give them the indication and say, good goodness, they go that. They will go in that direction. Give me a second. Okay? When you're mowing, what do you do instead? You fix a point in the distance, you stare at it, and you go straight at it. And what happens behind you? You get a straight line. What if you fix your eyes on Jesus? You go toward him, and all the distractions, all the things that are going to make you vie off to the sides, don't. You go to him. Fix your thoughts on him. We're going to come back to that as well, too. And why else should we fix our eyes on him? What are we trying to overcome? I think you've ever succumbed to temptation. I was at Edgar's Bakery today at lunchtime. There was some temptation there. I was hungry. Okay. Jesus, that we just heard in chapter 2, like us, was tempted in every way. How many of you have not been strong enough to overcome temptation every single time it's been in front of you? So this is another reason to fix your eyes on Jesus. Because he has overcome it. And if you consider him, and your thoughts are on him, and you use him and ask him for the strength, he can give it to you. Like I said, when Jews wanted guidance on how to live, they looked to the apostles, the messengers, the prophets, Moses, and to the high priest. And that's who Jesus is for us. The priest of our confession. By the way, every time you come across the word confess, you know what it means? Agree. When you confess your sins to God, it means you agree with him on them. You see them as he sees them. Verse 2. Who was faithful to him who appointed him, just as Moses also was faithful in all God's house. For Jesus has been counted worthy of more glory than Moses. As much more glory as that builder of a house has, more honor than the house itself. For every house is built by someone, but the builder of all things is God. Now Moses was faithful in all God's house as a servant, to testify to the things that were to be spoken later. But Christ is faithful over God's house as a son. And we are his house, if indeed we hold fast our confidence and our boasting and our hope. So, he's saying Moses, who is the authority for Judaism, he wrote most of the law, provided it. He was a servant. Jesus is the master. Moses was faithful, but he served Jesus, whose father owns the house, and we are the house. That's what he said there, down through verse 6. Verse 7. Therefore, as the Holy Spirit says, I love this. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as in rebellion. On the day of testing in the wilderness, where your fathers put me to the test and saw my works for 40 years. Therefore, I was provoked with that generation and said, they always go astray in their heart. They have not known my ways, and I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest. This is referring to the time at Kadesh Barnea, when the people were about to enter into the promised land, and the 12 spies come back, and 2 of them, Caleb and Joshua, go, it's awesome! Look at these grapes! And I love it because, they come back, and they've got this thing between them, okay? And the grapes are hanging, and it's doing this number as they walk, because it's so heavy with all the grapes. Just like in Pirates of the Caribbean, where Johnny Depp was hanging like that, right? Okay? And so they just kind of think, look at these grapes, a land of flowing with milk and honey. excited about, and the other 10 are going, yeah, no. Some people are big. I'm not big. Okay? They are what's called shack size. God had already said, I've given it to you. Go in and take it. But they lack the faith, and so they rebel. Anytime you say, God, I know what you told me, but I'm going to use my judgment over yours, what is that called? Is that stupid?
Disobedience.
Disobedience. Rebellion. You're rebelling against what God has told you, and you are choosing to go your way. Yeah, I'll do this one. Somebody at work, they're wanting to get a promotion, but years ago, they rebelled and thought their way is better, and they were constantly inserting their stuff in presentations of what the customer said, the customer was an expert. And so now they're missing out because everybody remembers, oh yeah, they're arrogant. They rebelled. And so I don't want them working on my task. Well, rebellion is when you choose your way over God's. You think you know more than He does. So here he's talking about, today if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts in the rebellion on the day of testing in the wilderness. Why? God was provoked and said they always go astray in their heart. They have not known my ways. I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest. This was the warning. This is he's quoting from Psalm 95, specifically verses 6 and 7. You know what's so interesting about Psalms 95? Or Psalm 95? Psalm 95 is a worship psalm. It's a call to worship God. And it says, today if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts in rebellion. This does not sound like worship to me. But it is, because it's saying obedience is worship. Follow what God says and tells you to do. Now let's finish this out. Verse 12. Take care, brothers, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving heart, leading you to fall away from the living God, but exhort one another every day, as long as it is called today, that none of you may be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin. For we have come to share in Christ, if indeed we hold our original confidence firm to the end. As it is said, today if you hear His voice, do not harden your hearts as in the rebellion. Now, if you read something in the Bible, and God identifies a problem to you, and He says, today, do not harden your hearts. Okay, thanks, go on home. I mean, does it tell you how? Or was it just a good pep talk? So that's why He doesn't just say that, but immediately following it, He tells us how. He gives us a way for us not to harden our hearts. And that's verse 12. Take care, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving heart, leading you to fall away from the living God. Great. That would be the problem. That's the hardening heart thing. Okay? But how do we deal with that? Well, glad you asked me. Verse 13. What does verse 13 say?
Exhort one another every day, as long as it's called today, that none of you may be hardened by the deceitfulness of sin.
Exactly. Again, do you realize Christianity is not a solo journey? It was never meant for any of us to be doing this solo. I've mentioned multiple times about, in Sunday school, if you heard this before, I apologize, but life group, sorry. What people call it Sunday school. When I was growing up, I was raised Roman Catholic and I was going to be a priest. And so I entered into the monastery and was being like one of the monks for a little while. And there was one monk, I'm not kidding, I think his name was Ignatius, Brother Ignatius. And you could only see Brother Ignatius in meal times. And you were not allowed to talk to him. Because if you did, I found out, he would not talk to you. And if you tried, you would just take him off. What Brother Ignatius did, he had taken a vow of isolation. And so he would come and he'd go through the line and get his meal. He wouldn't talk to anybody. He wouldn't look at anybody. He'd get his stuff. And off he'd go to his room. And he'd stay there until he came out the next time he wanted to eat something. And so he'd been doing that for years. And so many of the people were going, oh man, he is so holy. I mean, that's just, think of the things. Because all he does is sit there and pray and study. Man. Wow. And I remember thinking to myself, this is again the whole thing I said at the beginning. Don't fall, boy, girl, and no, just boy, girl. I remember sitting there going, that sucks. I mean, what good is he to anybody? He can have all the wisdom in the world, but if he doesn't communicate it or share it with anybody, who cares? He's not put it into practice. That's not wisdom, that's knowledge. Christianity is not meant to be a solo journey. Going back to verse 1 of Hebrews, chapter 3. Therefore, holy brothers, you share in a heavenly call. We share together. So that comes back around. Back down to verse 13. Exhort one another every day. That is how you take care not to fall into the problem of an evil, unbelieving heart that leads you astray from the living God. It means that Val and I encourage each other. Tyler encourages me all the time. I mean, this is what we do. We strengthen each other. We lift each other up. And thereby strengthen the body. This is how it works. See to it. How do we see to it? Well, again, first part was back in chapter 2, verses 16 to 18. Recognize Jesus came to earth for us. That's the first thing. Second thing, going back to verse 1. Recognize we share in heavenly calling. Thirdly, verse 13 and 14. Exhort one another, for we have come to share in Christ. If indeed we hold our original confidence firmly in. So, we had a thing up going, which is Jesus is better than, underline, right? There it is. One of the things I want to fill in there tonight, Jesus is better than self-sufficiency. None of us was called to do this on our own. Jesus died for you so you wouldn't have to. Because let me ask you something. What if you could do it all on your own? What would you not need? God. Exactly. His plan is for us to live together with Him. Christianity, separate from all those other religions. Why Jesus? Because Christianity is a relationship. Christianity is not about rules. It's not about rituals. It's not about rites. It's not about religion. It is about relationship. You have a relationship with Jesus Christ. Nobody else has that. You know what every other religion has? Every one of them. 13 major religions. 12 of them have the same thing. Works. Rules for works. I have to earn my way. I was talking about Hinduism earlier. I have to earn my way to the next level. Christianity is not that. It's a relationship. Once you get that, it all becomes a lot easier. Let's pray. God, you are so good. You give us your word. You speak to us through it. It was written thousands of years ago, and it's just as applicable today. Thank you for that. I thank you for the fact that when it was written, you know that we would be in this room, we would be studying, we would be reading it together, and we would have this community together. And Father, I pray that you would just use each one of us to strengthen each other. As iron sharpens irons, I pray that we would sharpen each other, and we would exhort each other, and we would build up each other, and we would become the body of men and women that you want us to be, so that others would be drawn to us. Drawn by our love for each other, and our love for you. Father, I just pray that as we go through this week, we wouldn't worry so much about having the sophisticated answers, but when people ask us Why Jesus? As it says, they would be overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And we would give that readily. Thank you so much for each person here. I pray your blessing upon them. And I pray that you just bless the rest of this night. And I pray also in the precious name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.